A week from now, at this same time, I'll be back in the pulpit with the congregation that ordained me 28 years ago next month. And their new minister, the Reverend Amelia Marie Peterson, will be here with all of you. I know you'll give her a great welcome. 28 years. I'm having a little problem with that number, but these gray hairs didn't just appear overnight. I'm pretty sure I earned at least some of them. At first, when Reverend Amelia asked about us having this pulpit exchange, I wasn't so sure about it. I was younger when I served the congregation in Livermore. I made some decisions I then came to regret. But by and large, the congregation loved me and I loved them. They were patient with me when I was low following the end of my first marriage. And we did some great things together. We expanded their campus, built 2 multi-purpose and classroom buildings. We opened our newly renovated sanctuary as a family shelter for a couple of weeks. And we took a youth trip to rebuild New Orleans after the hurricanes Katrina and Rita. I remember how somehow it came to me to greet them every Sunday morning with the phrase, "Welcome to another day in paradise." And I wonder how they've been greeted by their ministers ever since. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been reminiscing, even more than usual, thinking back about how parish ministry has helped shape me and what the role of communities of faith play in our lives and the larger world. So today I want to talk about some of the things I've learned from my time as a parish minister, what the congregations I've served have helped me learn, talk about why we come together in faith communities anyway. But maybe learned isn't the best word. Maybe it's more accurate to say that ministry has brought me experiences that have expanded my understanding of what it means to be human. One of the pillars of the generation of Unitarian Universalist ministers preceding my own was the late Reverend Josiah Bartlett. He introduced and championed interim ministry in our faith. And the Reverend Josiah Bartlett had such a great name that Aaron Sorkin used it in the TV show The West Wing for President Josiah Jed Bartlett. Look it up. In an open letter, the late Reverend Bartlett wrote shortly before he died, he talked about ministry as the best seat in the house of life. So far, at least, this has proven true in my experience. Marrying couples so beautifully in love it hurts to stand next to them. The call from one of your worship associates to tell you he just came home and found that his husband had hung himself in their home. And then, a few weeks later, the memorial service to honor the man, a celebration of life I will never forget. It began with a radiant drag queen and ended with shots of whiskey at the pulpit. A grand celebration of life, one that was cut short far too soon. And then there was another literal phone call saying, "Come to the hospital. Catherine just had her baby. Everything's fine. She wants to introduce you to her daughter." And after a half-hour drive, you get up to the delivery room and realize that little Kyla is not yet an hour old. Catherine had reached out to me after she realized she was pregnant. It was not something she planned. And standing there in the delivery room, realizing that not having had children of your own, The truth is that you had never seen such a young human being. You visit for a while, maybe half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and you're surprised by how peaceful it is, how natural. And then you head back to the car in the hospital parking lot, and after you close the door beside you, you cry for 20 minutes straight because life has just shown you something new and precious. And this long moment is the clearest initiation of your life into what it means to be human. And then, over the years to come, little Kyla will grow up clear that somehow this Reverend Eric guy has somehow wrapped himself around her little finger, and this Reverend Eric guy would never want to do anything to change that. You watch families with young children support each other. You watch as congregation members fall in love and marry, or struggle to stay partnered, which only rarely brings out the best in us. Others you love struggle to stay whole. And some fall away from the flock. Too many fall away. And some inevitably die, because we all will. And one of the things you're nervous about returning to your congregation in Livermore after nearly 20 years is all those who are no longer there. You know your heart will break again, and yes, you expect it will grow a little too. You remember moments of deep gratitude. When members of a church you then served drive all day to be at your mother's memorial service, at which you will preside. When you have moved from place to place as much as I have, and I am no army brat, it means the world when the circles of your life sometimes intersect. It means the world, like having a former ministerial intern and her husband and mother here, kind of great. And your wife now, who has worked for over 20 years in the field of organ donation, once tells you of the heroic effects she sees medical staff undertake to find a suitable organ match for a former board chair of your church, one of those who drove all day for your mother's memorial service. Someone who needs that organ to see his children come into their own, find partners, and perhaps marry. Someone whose entire family you know, love, and at times have been furious with. And those things your wife tells you are things you can't tell the family you know so well. And another congregant, a young woman in her 40s who donates one of her kidneys to another member of that faith community, extending the older woman's life by a decade. Heroes are everywhere if we look hard enough, and heck, we really don't have to look hard at all. Those are only some of your experiences in this strange, impossible calling. Of equal weight are the exchanges you witness between members of the communities you've served, the smiles of welcome, the long hugs of consolation, the pots of coffee made and enjoyed, the dishes brought to potlucks, the dishes washed, the kitchen conversations with as much heart and soul in them as the best sermon ever. Watching a young woman who grew up in the church you serve at a pride parade wearing angel wings and huge platform rainbow-soled shoes approach counter-protesters, fearless and respectful. Over the years, it becomes clear and is underlined 1,000 times that while no single faith community can do everything, each one can do just about anything they set their sights on. But it helps when we don't let the striving for perfection get in the way of the good. Good enough is usually good enough. And it becomes clear, looking back, that no act of love, encouragement, or appreciation is ever wasted. And every moment truly is precious. You remember something your spiritual director would say again and again and again. Remember, Eric, that ministry is an impossible calling. But somehow you're still grateful for it. In 28 years, you've only been bored for a total of 45 minutes. More are the times you'd like to be bored. For just a little while next Thursday, please, God, could I be bored? Bored again, not born again. And you remember taking your books out of boxes and onto the bookshelves of your new office in Ottawa. How it was a bit of a dreary cinder block office with 1950s era yellow paint on the walls and a carpet that really needed replacing. But it had the most magnificent view through a bank of windows, looking out north across a small wood beside a parkway, driving by the river, that would soon be renamed Kichizibi Mikan, which means the Great Way in the Algonquin language. And across it, the wide Ottawa River to the wooded banks of Quebec. And how looking out those windows the first time that August afternoon reminded you of something you saw in one of the many movies that helped restore you to yourself after the end of your first marriage. It's the movie from 2004, Facing Windows. It's an Italian film. Maybe some of you know it. If not, I highly recommend it. There's a reflection by the main character that has stayed with me all this time. Giovanna is a woman in a less than perfect marriage. She's looking out her kitchen window, thinking of her late friend David, a survivor of the concentration camps in World War II. Her reflection is this: I still need your advice, David. One of your glances, one of your gestures, but then suddenly I feel your gestures in mine and recognize you when I speak. Does everyone who leaves you always leave part of themselves with you? Is this the secret of memories? If that's true, I feel much safer because I know I'll never be alone. You've been reminded of that movie, one that helped restore you to yourself during the grieving at the end of your first marriage. And you wonder about what gestures and turns of phrase you've picked up along the way from those in the congregations you've served. Now, I began this little talk about how I welcomed folks in the Unitarian Universalist Church in Livermore 20 plus years ago. I'm not sure how long into those years I began starting each Sunday service with the line, "Welcome to another day in paradise." The phrase just came to me one morning, and I had never lived in any place so damned sunny. That said, after a few months of feeling oppressed by all that sunlight, I began to appreciate it. Still, Livermore was the closest place to a desert I'll ever want to live. I like sunlight, but I like shade too. Anyhow, you may remember at some point here last autumn, I tried that on that old line again here. I guess I wanted to know how it sounded after all that time. Hayward's sun is present, but softer than the sun in Livermore. And when I said it, there were a couple surprise chuckles. Yet in our current political climate, calling anything in our country paradise seems a bit far off. Still, I'm hopeful. With love and attention, gardens still grow. With love and attention, people grow too. And in communities of respect and love, souls deepen and grow. After my father died at the age of 60 in October of 91, the following Sunday I rose during my parents' congregation's joys and sorrows and announced his death on behalf of my family. Of course, most folks there already knew Dad had been active in lay leadership and in the choir there for years. So I went on to thank the congregation. I thanked them for supporting, challenging, and loving my dad. I thanked them for helping him become the person he most wanted to be. And that had the effect of help making him a better father to me and my brother. And that, in turn, helped make me a better me. Later, when someone there decided that Dad deserved a memorial plaque, they returned the favor. On it is written, "In gratitude to Donald M. Meter for his support, challenge, and love," or words to that effect. As far as I know, it's still there, bolted to the brick wall, just outside their little choir room, just a smidgen of a hair off level. So while we've only known each other for 6 or 7 months, I don't know that I'm already learning from you. I hope at least a couple of good things from me may rub off on some of you as well. Together, let's see what we can do to love a little more paradise into existence. What do you say?